health district, but also in Elmore County with a fairly rapidly rising number of cases. And then just wanted to have a conversation with you to see how Central District Health maybe could improve the services we're providing to the communities here in Mountain Home and the broader county, and just get some feedback from you. So if it's okay, I was just going to start and share some data with you as far as what we're seeing. I think everybody probably remembers the March 13th, or at least I do, Friday the 13th, when we had our first case in Idaho. This all started coming out of Wuhan, China area back in late December when it was first reported. So it took a few months to make its way to the United States and then into Idaho. Since then, we have had a lot of cases. Just give you some perspective. I know people early on were saying, well, it's no worse than the flu. And in a typical flu season in Idaho, throughout, starting October timeframe, usually tapers off in April. We get cases year round, but that's the flu season. We have about 25 people die from the flu. And so far, I was just thinking about Friday, I met with the county commissioners. 193 people that died in our district from COVID-19. And as of today, it's 200. So we had seven more deaths reported over the weekend. And what we're expecting will happen is, with the case counts rising last week, the previous week, so on Friday there was about 76 cases in Elmore County, and then the most recent week just completed a little over 80 cases. So you might say, well, we have whatever 30,000 people, it's not that many cases, but again, what happens is you'll see a rise in cases followed by a rise in hospitalizations, and then the number of deaths will also increase. Right now there's 4 people in St. Luke's health system and hospitalized for COVID. 2 of those are in the intensive care unit from Elmore County. So again, that kind of changes by the day, but that was what the circumstances are as of this morning. So, one of the things we've done is we've been pushing out a lot of messages and recommendations, what we need to do as a community. You probably remember very early on, masks weren't recommended, and the big fear at that point in time, and the messages coming down from the federal government, was there was a huge mask shortage for our healthcare workers. So no one really knew, how effective they would be at the time. There's a lot more research now to show that they're very effective, and are one of the few tools we have besides distancing, which you guys are doing here, face coverings, wash your hands, stay home if you're sick, and that's pretty much it. There's a vaccine in the works. I'm sure you heard the really positive news from Pfizer that their vaccine, at least now, is determined to be about 90% effective. But you're also hearing, which is accurate, before it's available to most of us in the general community, we're several months out. The first batch is supposed to come to Idaho. The last I heard was around February timeframe. We anticipate about 60,000 doses. Those will go to healthcare workers and people who are residents of long-term care facilities, as well as the workers there. So it's really the highest risk population that will face the most severe consequences should they get COVID-19. So one of the things that's hotly debated in our state for sure, and I'm sure in your communities over here as well, is what do you do? Is it, do we keep having recommendations? Do you do some type of face covering requirement? Do you do face covering requirement when you're indoors? Should that be in effect only when we're seeing the rapid rise in cases, where it's impacting, even our school operations? I'm sure you've seen both here in Mountain Home and the Glens Ferry situation as well, where there's so many people get it, either not necessarily from school, but because of the students, staff, the teachers, they have to close because they don't have enough people and resources on hand. So I know mandates, as people describe, are not popular, and I'm not here to recommend that, but I'm here to, I guess, given given the data I shared with you, to get feedback from you on what you think, we could do for the community, if there's any help that we can provide. The one thing I was going to share with you related to the disease situation is our hospitals stay in daily contact with Central District Health, and what they're reporting is becoming more alarming. You probably heard, like, out of the Twin Falls area where patients are being diverted. I know not too long ago they moved all their pediatric patients to Boise to make space for COVID patients. The state of Utah has notified Idaho that they can no longer accept patients from Idaho, which is, another place for patients to be diverted. And I'm watching numbers like over in the Portland area and up and down the valley south of Portland. They're also starting to see a rapid rise in cases. So unlike an emergency that we might have in a local community where you can move patients to other health systems, that's going to become more and more difficult as neighboring communities, both in Idaho as well as outside of our state, are being impacted. So we broke a record last week. We have a little over 2,000 cases district-wide. Before that was back in the July time frame where we had a couple of weeks where it was around 1,400, 1,500 cases. So that's, again, it's just going up pretty much every week by pretty good numbers. Last thing I'll say, for I'll hear comments and questions and suggestions, is Idaho is the last week or so, we're in the top 10 worst case rates in the country. And then the other thing you'll probably hear a fair amount about is positivity rates. And positivity rate, what that really tells you is when you're above 5%, we're closer to 15% right now, is we're not doing enough testing to know how prevalent the disease in our communities are. So that means when you test somebody, 15% of everyone you test positive. So basically, there's a lot more, and about 40% of the people are asymptomatic that are infected and can pass it on. So at the 15% positivity rate, when I tell you we have 2,000 cases reported last week, we have a lot more cases of COVID-19 in our community right now than what the data is showing. If that, I don't know, hopefully that makes sense to you. So we try to drive the positivity rate by doing more testing, but the testing is not readily available from our health systems, primary care offices. So a lot of them are limiting testing just to people who are symptomatic. So you're missing that big population who are sick with the virus but not showing symptoms, at least at the time. So on that happy note, I'll be glad to take any questions or comments or thoughts or things that we could do from Central District Health as far as education, guidance, resources.
Councilman, got anything?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes?
Russ, what would a possible mask mandate look like? Are you saying if I'm walking my dog by myself I have to wear a mask and it's mandated by the CDH or the city or the county, or what's your proposal, I guess?
Okay. Not sure the protocol, Mr. Mayor.
No, you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just him.
Okay. Councilman Stokes, what I would think, when I think about mandates or requirements or restrictions, my strong preference is to take the least restrictive approach to try to get the most benefit out of that. We saw what stay-home orders looks like. It's very harmful to the economy. Kids were displaced from school. In fact, there was no virtual learning back in April and May time frame like there is that option today. So what I would envision is, and the city could do it, Central District Health through the board could certainly we would want the community support, is indoors, public places, definitely, and whenever physical distancing, and I would definitely provide, you can take notes or not, but I can provide this to you if you're interested, what I would specifically be looking at. And I think when we have this, for schools, we talk about the red category or category 3. That's when we have a certain case rate in the community, and I would think when it gets above that rate, the requirements or expectations could be in effect, and then they could be relaxed when it's, when we don't have such a high case rate. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And then with exceptions, people who can't wear face coverings, or there's, you know, medical issues, or children ages 2 and younger that it's not recommended for. So it wouldn't be outside. And I'm not opposed, you know, I'm not saying if you're like at some type of outdoor event and you're going to be in close contact, the virus will spread through, you know, respiratory droplets, even in an outdoor setting. So that's not a safety factor, but definitely better, you know, fresh air, ventilation, breezes will help. So if I were to recommend, I would look at those factors. I'd look indoor public places when physical distancing can't be maintained, and when Elmore County's in red for community transmission would be some ideas.
Okay, and for me, I would rather err on the side of freedom. Not necessarily opposed to masks. I wear one when I go to Albertsons or Walmart, when applicable, basically. And then I had a couple other questions. Do you know what the effectiveness is of wearing a mask? Like, does it drop that count by 90%, 50%, the count of COVID positives?
Yeah, so there's the data out there. What they really look at is looking at a community with a mask mandate, and then they also, mandates doesn't necessarily mean translate to everyone wears them, but policy recommendations compared to communities without any type of policy decisions. And you know, it definitely varies. It's not consistent, like a 60% drop. There's research out there where they've done studies in a laboratory to see, you know, to detect, I don't even know what they're measuring, water droplets. I'm sure it's not the virus itself, to show the face coverings. What it does is it knocks down in conversation. Like if we were standing outside right now without face coverings, you'd see my breath. Face covering, you might see some of it coming out of the side. So we know they work, but I can provide you with the research. That there's a ton of research out there to show that they work, but I don't know specifically it reduces it by X percent.
So, this weekend, I knew you were coming, so I did a little bit of data. Okay, I wanted to pass one to Russ as well. And
Put hand sanitizer on before you gave me this?
I did, yes. That's for Brennan. So, this is all from the CDH website. Okay, on the x-axis you have the date. I chose July 14th for a reason. You know, I might have chosen that date.
You like that steel date?
Mask requirement in Ada County?
That is the mask requirement in Ada County. And right here we have Ada in blue, and then Elmore in this orange. And I did a linear analysis and then a quadratic, and it looks like, according to what I see, I don't really see a decline per se in Ada with the mask mandate, and that's why I would lean against it for our community. What would your take be on for this kind of graph?
I guess as I look at it, there is a decline, and that's number of confirmed cases, and I guess that's the other thing you'd have to look at. So I guess from what you mapped out here, if you look at prior to the face covering mandate in Ada County, the cases were steadily rising, and then at that point, not long after the mask mandate, naturally you wouldn't have an immediate drop off because people are sick today and may get diagnosed over the next 14 days or so. So
yeah, and there's going to be a natural lag, right?
From orders or mandates or just voluntary compliance. Yeah. So, you know, and like I said, I can share similar data from around Idaho, from what other communities. I think Eastern Idaho is one that have put mask requirements in place, and there's so many factors too. You know, I will tell you, when we look at our rural communities in Idaho, they were mostly spared early on, whereas urban, super high density populations, as you would have in Boise and Meridian compared to I think about Mountain Home, Hammock, Glens Ferry, King Hill, and beyond. So I appreciate you sharing it, and I would be able to share data that would be similar, but looking at what's happening across the country.
Okay, thanks, Russ. I just think scientifically, if a mask mandate reduced that case count by 90% or 80%, it might be something that would be shown in the data. You might have this big drop off at some point and this flatten. I don't necessarily see that, so I'm just sharing my opinion with you.
No, I appreciate that. And like I said, I do understand it, and it's one of the few tools we have to try to manage this disease until we have a vaccine that's available to the general population, which might be next summer. And so it's all.
With talking about the vaccine, what if 30-40% of the people don't get that vaccine? And I hate talking about what ifs because it's all theory, but.
Well, in Idaho, I could see that being a real possibility. So
me too.
I think there's kind of two things going on right now in the world, and certainly in the United States and here in Idaho, is there's a lot of people who are getting COVID-19. So the real question I'm sure we all have, and there's no like proof yet, is people who get it will develop natural immunity. That's what generally happens when you get an infection. It just so happens that a lot of people get really sick, they're in hospital ventilators, and some people die as well. And it's not just, people 90 years old in a long-term care facility. We're starting to see more of the multi-system inflammatory syndrome. There's a child in eastern Idaho that I'm told will need a heart transplant after having been infected with COVID-19. So there's some really bad outcomes that can come with natural immunity. And then, but I think the evidence is there. We're not seeing a lot of reinfections or where we don't know that, that it's a reinfection versus a lagging virus in somebody's body. Plus vaccine uptake at, even if it's 60%, I think we'll be in a far better position than we are right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Councilman Brennan.
I just have a question. Maybe not so much a question, but a concern of the accuracy and integrity of the reporting system for specifically deaths related. In my line of work, I've already come across a couple of examples where somebody has a very serious illness pre-COVID, and it's pretty evident that item killed them, but then they're tracking it up, they're tallying it up as a COVID death, and I struggle with that because just because somebody has it, in my mind, maybe not the scientific mind, they didn't die from that, and so is that skyrocketing our death count just because somebody has it and they're dying from a car crash?
So it would be up to the medical doctor or coroner to designate whether it was a cause or a major contributor to the death or not. So if they had somebody in a car crash and they're on life support and they test them and they test positive for COVID, I guess I've never been in that line of work to have to make the designation, but I would think that would be not really ethical to do that if you were to say, the person's definitely going to die anywhere. Whereas you may have severe diabetes, congestive heart failure, then you get COVID, then you end up in the hospital and you die from the respiratory complications. That would likely be more appropriate. So that'd be a good question, like for our health systems to make that call. But I'm sure the same thing would happen with flu, right? Flu deaths, they do the same thing. It's either the cause or a major contributor before they get labeled as such.
Sure. And there's a lot of money being handed out at the federal and state level, COVID-19 related. Just a point blank question, are healthcare facilities being awarded money based on how many COVID-19 reports that they have or they take care of?
Not to my knowledge. I know there's extra, I don't work in that field. We provide healthcare services, but we don't even do testing at our facility. So I'm told that there's higher reimbursement rates. There's, for hospitalizations that there's extra money. So there's, there is that reality. I just don't know if they code somebody as though they died from COVID, that they get extra money for that.
Did I hear you correctly that there could be, or there is, a higher reimbursement rate for positive tests?
So my understanding is when they have a COVID patient in the hospital that they're caring for, that there's additional funding that goes to that medical facility. But I don't know what amount it is, and I don't, there's a lot of added cost, right? They had to stock up on ventilators, all the extra PPE, extra staffing resources that's required to take care of COVID patients. That's what I understand is the reason for the higher payments that they get.
Okay. And could that, or does that lead to fraud or some type of mismanagement or misreporting?
Again, I don't want to comment on that. That to me I'd be questioning the integrity of St. Luke's, for example, here in town, and I would, you guys can invite them over to speak about that and answer the questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Russ, I had one more question. I was wondering, are you a doctor, health specialist, virologist, epidemiologist, or have you ever studied virus spread in humans?
So myself, no, I'm actually I studied occupational health, so it's, and I can, basically came up in the environmental science fields, but we have medical doctors on staff. We have epidemiologists. Our lead epidemiologist was trained at Johns Hopkins University, and we have Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. So we have staff who study this, and that's basically who I take my guidance from as far as recommendations and information to the community.
Okay, great. If you could provide the council with scientific evidence that masks work, I would really appreciate that. I would love reading that and diving into that information. Okay.
I'll do it for sure. I'll get it to you guys tomorrow.
Councilman Bundy?
Russ, first off, I appreciate you taking the time to come and share your thoughts and your expertise with us. And you were talking earlier about ways that we could better work together. And I think the fact that you're here tonight is a great step in the right direction, so that you can come and we can open up this dialogue and we can ask our questions. We can figure out the best way forward for this. So I appreciate that you're here. I like the way that you're looking at, we want to do what's most beneficial. And I think as we have this information flow and we open this line of dialogue up, I think that we can come to hopefully what's the best for the community. So I really am glad that you're here, and tell the folks that you work with that we respect what they do, as we all try to do the best thing for Mountain Home and for Idaho and for everybody around us. So I just wanted to tell you that I think that the fact that you're here and you're talking with us is a huge step in the right direction for all of us, that we can open this line of communication up and figure out what the best way forward is in this process. So I just wanted to say thanks for coming, and
Sure.
we're welcome. I welcome all the information that you can give us, your recommendations, and then we can figure out what the best thing is to do with those. So thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I wish there was a simple path forward, but as you all know, and the things that you're faced with, there's been nothing simple and clear and consistent about this. It's I would say it's one of the more bizarre viruses that we've ever dealt with, and just the fact that some people get extremely sick, and some people, even people in the folks in the vulnerable population, have hardly any symptoms at all. I mean, it's just really, it's been really perplexing and challenging, and that's why really, why I wanted to visit with you all, is just kind of tell you directly what we're seeing, and more even what we're anticipating, which is the next couple of weeks we expect are going to get far worse, not better. And the reason is case counts are rising. People are spending a lot more time indoors, especially now. I got holidays coming up, which is for the specific purpose of getting together with others, and we know that's high risk. So it's just, and what I'm hearing from the health systems with the concern that they're expressing about their ability to provide care, period, not just for COVID patients.
Russ, I'm gonna agree with Councilman Bundy 100%. I know you have better things to do than come here and talk to us, but I know you did it for the betterment of the citizens of Mountain Home. I know you came out here to give us or let us all know the data and statistics. This is a hot topic. I guess I can start spitballing here, right? Actually, I've been told not to. But in lieu of that joke is my spitball, it takes me in different ideas or areas in my brain. It just keeps me going from one area to another. To me, if you were to antiquate masks to a seatbelt law, to a speeding law, if you were gonna make a short-term, in-term law to save people's lives, would you antiquate that to the no cell phones coming up in January? You know, you're not supposed to have your cell phone. Would you antiquate that to a seatbelt law that saves lives? I guess my mind is, I've always believed in small government. You know, obviously cities are supposed to do what's, you know, roads, water, wastewater, you know, and the fun stuff is, you know, the parks, the you know, libraries, the golf courses, the fun amenities, right? And that's where I think all 5 of us, I'm not speaking for them, but I think that's where we get the most satisfaction is we do a lot of work at a local level and we see the fruits of our outcomes. If you were to tell, I guess, and Councilman Stokes hit on the head too, we need statistics and data to make the best decision here moving forward. So I definitely want you to share that with me. But if you were going to antiquate a mask mandate, would you articulate that into a same as a seatbelt law, same as a speed limit law, or the cell phone law that's coming out? You know, obviously we live in a civilized society and everybody has their opinions, but we have city ordinances, we have city laws, we have state laws that govern civilized societies. Would you antiquate that or put that in the area where we need to be with the masks? Because to me, you might have all your statistics and data for masks, but then there's going to be some researchers over here that contradict that. And for us up here, I don't know how we make the best decision possible when you have both having the same fight.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know that was sorry, my mind's going 1,000 different directions, but.
Yeah, and so I guess, you know, I guess working in public health, and I've been doing this for a little over 25 years, you know, we've obviously never been faced with anything like this. We've had, you know, the plague and Columbia ground squirrels, and we've had blue-green algae, you know, and water, some bodies of water over here in Elmore County that not too many people recreate in, but it's a public health risk for sure. This is so much greater than that as far as the impact that it's having and will have on our communities. When I think about the speed limits, in fact, I was talking to one of the law enforcement officers in Ada County about speed limits, and and in fact it came up with a mask requirement versus just keep doing what we're doing, which is telling people you should wear face coverings, especially when you're indoors and can't physically distance. And he said, you know, Russ, I was trying to suggest, hey, maybe you guys ought to help out here a little bit because it is a public health order if it comes from us. And he said, you know, we've been writing speeding tickets for a long time and people still speed. And I thought, you know, that is so interesting because when I drive and it says 80 on my way home, I'm not doing 90. I'm going to probably do 81 or 82 at most. So that speed limit sign, even though not everybody follows it, and the odds of me getting pulled over if I did 90 might be pretty slim, but for the most part, people follow that, right? That's a public safety measure that's put in place to save lives and reduce the morbidity associated with car crashes and so on. So I don't know if that's a good comparison, but I do think mandates versus education, I think there's a place for them, but you got to have the community buy-in as well. I feel strongly about that. If I were, or the Central District Health Board were to issue an order and you guys didn't have the data or the research, I mean, we've had county commissioners in this state come out and write resolutions directing their citizens to not follow orders, and it's like, well, that's kind of pointless then. But I do think it works. Same as, like you say, the cell phone laws and some other seatbelt laws, they do work. The speed limit thing, that really hit home with me because it's like, yeah, I get that. You can still speed and you may not get a ticket, but there's that risk there. And I think generally people want to do the right thing too. I hope.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilman.
I just want to thank you for coming. I don't have anything else to say because the only thing I have right now to say just sounds negative, and I'll just leave it at that. Right?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Stokes.
I have one more, or I guess two more questions, Russ. Does CDH have the authority to do this? And then number two, who would be enforcing this proposed mask mandate? And that sounds negative. I don't mean it to be
No,
too negative.
and I'm glad to take negative too. I mean,
It's not against you. Believe me.
I hear lots of it every day, so.
No, I appreciate everything
Yeah.
you're doing and you being here.
Oh, for sure. So in Idaho code, it's 39.414, section 2, basically gives the central district health or public health districts the authority to, it's very generic, do all things necessary to protect public health. So that's what we rely on. And then of course, cities have the authority to implement their own ordinances with their own penalties, and quite frankly, what we issue, there's only one option, and that's a misdemeanor, which is a pretty serious, crime, versus for cities, they can just do a simple infraction and a fine of, I don't know, $50. So, when we think about our orders, they're definitely higher level, more difficult to enforce, but a greater consequence. And I would never suggest to anybody in this room that you should cite somebody for a misdemeanor for going into Albertsons without a face covering. But when you have businesses that we see that are, bars, in Ada County, there's restrictions. They leave their bar tops open, staff are not wearing face coverings, there's no signs, no sanitizers. Well, I think those owners ought to have a conversation, and then if they continue to violate the orders, then at some point in time, I think it'd be appropriate for law enforcement to step in. So it's tough to enforce. I think the city's doing it with an infraction definitely it's more likely to have some enforcement component with the city police.
Thanks, Russ.
So what's the difference, and maybe you don't know that, or maybe you do, what's the difference between, oh God, maybe I don't wanna say, what's the difference between someone physically having COVID, going out, don't care, and then someone else giving it an STD?
Right.
Do they have the right to go out and infect everybody? Cause I know, I would assume that you can't just go around and I know back in the 80s and 90s when you had AIDS and there was people giving AIDS,
Yep.
I know that was a felony or.
Yeah, it still is in our state, yep.
Yeah.
Knowingly exposing somebody to it.
Yeah.
Well, with many infectious diseases, it requires a certain high-risk behavior. Sex, injection, drug use. You're engaging in something that has certain risk. But by me being beside you in the grocery store and in Albertsons, waiting in line, and you don't have a face covering on, you can easily pass that on to me. We wear these to protect others, not necessarily to protect ourselves. So we deal with STDs all the time in our business, and there's just definitely, it's just a different exposure risk by far. We can pass respiratory viruses, just be like TB. If we had a massive TB outbreak in this community, would everybody be opposed to face coverings? I don't know. I would like to think if you had something like that people are more familiar with than this new virus, maybe it would be accepted differently, as well as, right, we've been at this for 7 months. I mean, it gets wearing on everyone for sure. But I'm here to tell you, I think now's the time if we're gonna do something. It wasn't this past summer. I'm sharing with you the data and what we're seeing and what the health systems are telling us, and I think it's time to step up our efforts for sure.
Mayor,
Councilman.
couple more things. Was it you that met with the county, Elmore County commissioners last week? Sorry.
Friday, yeah.
I missed that. Can you give us, was there a decision made or anything? I don't have any idea how that went. Did you ask them for a mandate? Did they
No.
approve, deny, anything?
No, I didn't. I just talked to them about it, talked about mandates, education, just sharing. It was just dialogue.
Okay.
So there was I didn't ask them to issue any kind of mandate. In fact, the counties, oddly, I don't know if there's any attorneys in here, they can't do it, is what I understand. But cities can, and public health districts, and obviously the state can. For some reason, the counties can't issue
They don't have the same enabling legislation that municipalities and central district health do.
Okay.
So that's correct.
Great, thank you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's odd.
All right, Councilman. Hey,
I had a second question, but
Mr. Mayor,
I got
forgot
one more
with that-
too.
with that comment.
Given the timing, Russ, it seemed like we tried to do everything in our power in what, mid-March, late March? Shut down the economy, tried to slow the spreads, flatten the curve, and we accomplished that. And now it feels like CDH is kind of crying wolf, if you will. You comment on that?
Well, I can comment on what happened with flatten the curve idea.
Yeah.
Was at that point in time, we believed in the United States that about 5% or more of the people that got infected would die.
Uh-huh.
So that was very alarming. The main reason the stay-home orders went into effect was our health systems were in a really bad position. They didn't have adequate ventilators, which was used at the time, used less today. So they didn't have adequate medical equipment, and they had virtually days worth of personal protective equipment to protect the healthcare workers who in other countries were getting sick, some were dying. So fast forward to today, we know, at least we think we know more about it, and what our goal has always been is twofold. It's never been suppression. We never thought we would stop this disease. We knew. That's what the staff that you asked me about earlier, that's what they told me early on. Russ, people are gonna get sick and people are gonna die from this, and it'll probably be pretty big numbers by the time it's all said and done. So where we are today is, I guess I'm sharing with you what the data is, if you believe the data, and I'm not suggesting you don't, but there is, you're not the only one to question, is there financial incentives to code things certain ways, is our health systems are telling Representative Blanksman, the 6 other board members, and myself as little as 2 weeks ago, we're heading into a crisis situation. There's a real potential. We're seeing what's happening in Twin Falls area, Magic Valley area, where they're having to transfer patients because they don't have capacity there. So as far as the wolf part of it, no, I don't think there's any wolf crying going on. I think it's very likely to get bad here soon based on what's happening around the country and what's happening here in our state. That's what I believe. I'm just giving you the best advice I have.
Councilman McKay?
You said the ventilators are used less now than what they were earlier. Is there a reason
Yep.
for that?
Yeah, they've a couple of medications, and I'm not talking hydroxychloroquine, but other medications that they're using to help to try to suppress the virus. They do things like put patients on their belly instead of on their back, and they're using certain oxygen therapies to help to keep people off of the ventilators, because that has consequences to it in and of itself. So early on, ventilators were believed to be the solution to keep people alive, and today they're using far broader range of techniques to keep people alive.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Russ, this has been characterized as a pandemic, a worldwide global thing. I think we're seeing epidemics occur, and I also think this is now endemic to our region or the entire U.S. Would you comment on that?
So the difference between an epidemic and a pandemic is global versus localized. So it's definitely a pandemic. It depends on how countries manage it. Countries like Australia are doing pretty well managing the disease with, as you pointed out, the economic consequences that come with that, because they're more in that lockdown mode, stay-home order mode. And is it endemic, which would mean it's with us and it's going to be here? No doubt about it. So unfortunately, even once we have a vaccine, even if smallpox is one of the few diseases we've completely eradicated, and it took decades and decades. This will be with us for a really long time. Hopefully not at the levels that it is today. That's what our goal is, to drive down the case counts, not to zero, but keep it low enough that the health systems can provide the necessary care, and we can try to keep it out of our long-term care facilities, for example, and you know, they're not passing it necessarily within those, but the workers are bringing it into the facility. So it's just trying to manage a disease that we'll have to deal with probably for the rest of our lives in some form or fashion, unfortunately.
Well, Russ, unless council has any other questions, I want to say thank you. Thanks for your time.
For sure.
Thanks for, and definitely please, if you can, get all that statistical data to Nina, and then she can disseminate that out to the council
Okay.
and myself. That'd be huge. Do you have a card, Nina, or?
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Russ. Have a good night, bud.
Okay, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah,
thank
Representative
you.
Lincoln, nice to see you.
Thanks for your time.
Happy to be here.
Okay.
Happy the election's over.
Congrats.
Congrats.
Thanks. So you guys know that you can also contact me if you've got any questions and can't get a hold of us. So
Roger that.
Thank you.
let me know.
Awesome. Thank
I'm
you.
Just waiting for a
Yep.
contact, so I'll just stand up back here.
Ah, yes. Hey, Councilman, really quick, I forgot to, I needed to amend the council agenda, and that's, I need to amend letter F on the consent agenda, and I needed to say approve to proceed with the purchase of fire truck from Brindle Lee Mountain Fire Apparatus and piggyback on the bid from the NPP Gov, a National Cooperative Procurement Organization, and approve the MOU with the Rural Fire District for the payment of 50% of the truck.
Make Mr. Stokes say it just like that.
That was long.
Here you go, Mr.
Do we need to
Stokes.
make a, do we need to make a motion if it's gonna stay on the consent agenda?
Your motion, yes, because
Okay.
you are moving to amend what is
What it
written
says.
on your agenda right now.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
I was
Um,
joking.
oh,
You could say what he said.
there you go.
Second.
Councilman, there's been a motion and a second to amend letter F on the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye. Councilman, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Councilman, I'll call for the question. How about that one? Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Councilman Stokes.
Aye.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cry wolf.
Sorry about that, Councilman. We're gonna run down to item number 3, introduction of LEAP housing, and I'll let Brock take away. Come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Today we have the opportunity to introduce you to a wonderful future community partner that has decided to come to Mountain Home. As I've spoken to all of you, currently we have an issue when it comes to entry-level homes, when it comes to workforce housing, and providing for all of those various needs that our citizens here have at the City of Mountain Home. So we are planning on to partner with Leap Housing Solutions based out of Boise. They are a non-profit and their mission's twofold. One is to provide the education necessary for people to get into home ownership. And number 2 is to provide those types of products that people are able to buy so they can get into the market, so they can build equity and have prosperous futures. I believe the item that they're going to speak about today is their Yes You Can housing program, which is a consultation service that they provide for free to help people hopefully get to the overall goal of home ownership. And I will let them take it from here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Brock, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for having me, council members, thank you so much for having me tonight. My name is Nate Walsh, and I am from Property People and Leap Housing Solutions. We are a kind of philanthropic-based real estate organization in Boise, and we're looking to reach out to your community for the reasons that Mr. Cherry expressed here. First, we have some workforce and affordable housing development initiatives that we're trying to reach out to more folks here. And what I'm here tonight for is to talk about the Yes You Can first-time homebuyers program. So I'm a former teacher turned realtor, and I'd like to take that same initiative of guiding folks through kind of a curriculum-based approach to purchasing their first homes. We have, like I said, a curriculum that's not just in English, but also in Spanish as well. And we like to make the entire process an empowering one for folks, so that they don't make the biggest financial decision that they're probably going to make in their life and realize, oh, what the heck did I just do? So that comes to understanding the entire process beforehand. It comes to understanding what's going on in each specific home that they're looking at, and it comes to a after purchase education program as well. So how to not only buy the house, but to maintain, how to be successful as homeowners, so that, like Mr. Cherry alluded to earlier, that we can provide some kind of equity building and sustainable model for folks moving into the future to kind of help fortify the economic futures of a lot of your community members down here. So we've been working mostly in the Treasure Valley and Boise, Napa Caldwell area, but we would really love to be able to engage with your community as well. I've got a lot of friends in Boise that are from Mountain Home, and so it's definitely something that's pretty important for me as well. The new brewery, Jeff Parody's brewery downtown, I helped with Jeff. I did a pro bono for him over there and hooked him up with Jim Prouty to broker that deal as well. So the Mountain Homies are important to me, and I definitely want to be able to come down and serve the folks down here that are serving your community.
Nice, Nate. Well, I appreciate you taking your time coming down, and I just, do you also do any of the housing developments with I guess the question is like Idaho housing developments, rent, where we say low income or workforce housing. Do you do any of the work with those groups as well?
Yes, sir. We have several different developments that are being built and have been built in Boise right now, based on folks that have donated land to us. And then we are currently actively pursuing more developments down here in Mountain Home as well, Mayfield as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when can we see the first one being built in Mountain Homes inside city limits here?
Oh my gosh, we're definitely working towards that, and trying to build as many partnerships as we possibly can to make that happen for folks around here, because I'm a firm believer in home ownership as being one of the keystones of the realizing the American dream. And that's one of the reasons I made the shift from teaching into real estate, is that I want to make sure that folks and families are being more secure, not only to have the equity, but also so kids can have a home to grow up in that is stable and long-term, and they can stay in the schools that they want to stay in, and have the friends that they want to have, and the teachers and all the things that come with home ownership.
Fantastic. So what location did you say again? You're building Mount Home?
We're definitely working as hard as we can to get some land down here to develop in Mountain Home. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we definitely need it. Obviously, Brock probably told you. Well, they say it's 98% full. The Air Force Base, it's essentially 100% full. Hardly a huge housing shortage here in Mountain Home. We have airmen that come in that are happen to go to Boise. They'd rather stay in Mountain Home. We've got a workforce housing that definitely needs this housing development, or any housing development. If you guys can bring that to Mountain Home. I know that was a passion of the council 4 years ago that when I got on. It's a passion of this council, which I'm not speaking for you guys, but we have an industrial park that will have workforce opportunities for people there. I know we definitely need some. So if you can bring it, we'll gladly appreciate you bringing it here, and definitely make sure that, like I said, people can have the ownership of a home, which is huge.
Well, thank you so much, and I realize that maybe if I'm from Boise, I might be persona non grata down here, but I do hope that we can develop a great partnership. Our executive director, Bart Cochran, has been mostly in contact with Mr. Cherry, and he would definitely wish he could be here tonight, but he's in planning and zoning meetings up there, but hopefully there'll be some planning and zoning meetings down here that he can attend as well.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Stokes?
Nate, thanks for coming. I was curious kind of what kind of price range you're looking at. I think of like a starter home, 140, 150,000, maybe to 200,000, that kind of economic range. What do you see bringing to Mountain Home?
Yeah, definitely. So specifically with the details of the development side of our organization, that's definitely Mr. Cochran's specialty. But I can tell you what we're doing in Boise right now is that where the median home price is over $400,000 right now, we are rolling out 14 houses that are going to be priced at $212,000. We do that with federal funds from the home program. It's through HUD. Also with the donation from St. Alphonsus. They donated the land to us as well, or donated us funds to buy the land. And Idaho Housing as well is offering a $35,000 housing subsidy to that as well. So we're trying to just find every edge and opportunity that we possibly can, and then pass that on to the citizens and folks in our community.
That would be fantastic. So thanks, Nate.
Is that, income based, those houses?
Yes, sir. It is 80% of area median income or lower. So that's defined as affordable housing, and then workforce is 80 to 120% of area median income. And I didn't follow up on the exact what Elmore County's AMI is here, area median income, but that would be what we were shooting for, something around either for affordable or workforce housing.
So, Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Buddy, sorry about that.
Well, you're talking about a median, you're looking at a $212,000 price. What's your square footage on that?
That one's gonna be 1,000 square feet, but it's 4 bedrooms and 2 bath.
Okay.
They're modular homes that we're bringing into the community. They're gonna be on a 5,000 square foot lot. It's actually part of the first community land trust as well. So that's a kind of a term that's been going around a little bit, kind of gaining some traction as well. And it's definitely it's a shared equity model. So you own the improvement, and LEAP maintains ownership of the land, so it kind of pays it forward. But it definitely helps to get people equity. If you stay in the house for 5 years, you get about $30,000 back. It's kind of a set. Enough to get a down payment on your next house. So kind of a really great starter home kind of idea. You don't have all the upside of equity, but you also don't have a lot of the risk either, because it's subsidized by Idaho Housing.
What's your construction model on those? Is it a typical wood frame, or is it a modular, or what's?
Great question. Yes, it is a modular home. They are being built by a local company called IndieDwell. They're out in Caldwell, and they are actually going across the country right now as well. They are the ones that are doing the shipping container homes, but that is actually ending, and they're moving to steel stud manufactured homes. So that's public knowledge now, and so we are going to be the last run of the shipping container homes. But yeah, they're going to be moving to steel stud, which is great. It can withstand anything. They're super strong houses at that point. But keeping it not stick built helps us to make them more quickly, and so developments can be lived in and occupied more quickly and more affordably as well. So that's what we're working towards with those.
Thanks.
Mayor,
Councilman.
it says here that the fee, excuse me, this free service is a free service, and then in the back here it said, is there any cost to participate? And it says no, except for the home buyer's education. What is the home buyer's education, and
Yeah.
what does that cost you?
Great question. So there is a requirement for any kind of Idaho housing program to take the Finally Home buyer's education. NeighborWorks Boise offers it in person for $20, and then you can also take it online for $50 as well. And then the last few clients I've been working with, though, they've gotten a subsidized, so they got to take it for free actually. So our program, however, is free, and all the materials that we've created, we'd be happy to share for free. And then also, we've done some kind of, before the pandemic, we've done some home buyer hacks workshops. So that's a little bit less about the credit and the financing and all that portion, but just about how do you go into a house, look at it, find out if it's going to be right for you. What are some of the things you can do to sharpen your tool set before you even start getting out to shop? And then what are some of the things you can do to make sure that you are making the most of your home ownership experience?
Councilman Brennan.
Do you have a newly completed development in the Boise Treasure Valley area that would mirror something what you want to bring to Mountain Home?
I can't really comment exactly on what we are planning on bringing to Mountain Home. Right now we're just trying to procure some land. And there are two subdivisions that we created, Windy Court 1 and Windy Court 2, and those are for rent right now, and those would model something akin to what we've got projected for Mountain Home. Our first for sale development we're starting to pour foundations right now. That's kind of like on the way up when you're about to turn on the Highway 55 off State Street to go up to McCall. You guys might go the other way to McCall, I don't know. But we have, it's called Caritas Commons, and that was it's a term from the Bible for love that is about spreading love to the community through that. So that would be what, if you want to take a look anytime, I'd be happy to escort you around and show you what we got up there.
Yeah, I was just hoping to visualize like what you're talking about rather than a conceptual, computer generated image or something, so.
Good, Brock.
Mr. Mayor, I would note that we do have some vans that we can put you in. So that you can go see these developments. These aren't just, I believe when we think container homes or something manufactured, that we do have a stigma like, well, is it less than what a home is? Is it gonna still gain that equity? And I'll let you know that IndieDwell took this product to Washington DC. Actually, while I was in Washington DC. And our Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Ben Carson, was extremely impressed with the quality. It's minimalist and it's smaller, but it has to be smaller in order to keep costs down. But even though it's smaller, the citizens are going to have the opportunity to build that equity, which is spoken of. So I'm going to be working with Leap Housing very closely. I'm going to have them sending me all kind of pictures and layouts that I will be able to relay to all of you. But they have been great to work with, and they've been very open. So if you're ever interested in visiting one of their communities, I think it would be great so that you can really experience it for yourself, to see that it's not necessarily the first thing that comes to your mind when you're like, oh, is it, is it a glorified trailer park or something else?
There's one in Caldwell, I think, IndieWell Houses subdivision. It's pretty cool. They were shipping containers, but now they're getting away from the shipping containers.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with manufactured houses.
No?
And these ones won't blow away.
Yeah, they're super heavy and they're not the same layout as what a typical double wide would be either. I don't think
They're pretty modern.
Yeah, they're very modern. The ones that we have that are currently rented right now and being lived in, those are all flat roofed. So the ones that we're building for sale, however, those are gonna look pretty much like any other home. They're gonna have siding, pitched roofs. You wouldn't even be able to tell that they're shipping containers either. They're highly efficient as well. We put solar panels on the tops of them, so they're pretty self-sufficient as well. I mean, you could take one of these and go live out in the middle of nowhere too and feel pretty good about it.
That IndieWell, was it like more efficient than a regular stick-built home they were claiming. So those were, like I said, they're cool. Courtney was gonna bring that to us, but the developer or somebody at the time, and something happened, but it was neat. So,
Mayor?
Councilman McCain.
You said these houses will average 1,000 square feet, 4-bedroom for 215,000.
Yes, sir.
So he did mention that was for Boise.
Correct.
Where
Yeah.
Mountain Home, we have a different demographic. And I don't want to speak for IndieWell or speak for that data, but I would assume that it would probably be less in Mountain Home comparatively to the Boise market.
That's why I was curious, because that sounded awful expensive for 1,000 square foot house in this area.
Definitely, yeah. And the median home price here is $232,000, so we'd like to make it commensurate then with what the median home price would be here as well. So, yeah. And as IndieDwell moves into the different production schedule and models, instead of doing the shipping container houses, they're actually doing this for a more cost effectiveness as well.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
All right, Council, any more questions for Nate?
Thank you.
All right, thanks Nate for making the trip, man.
Thank you guys so much.
Have a safe
Really
drive home.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll run down item number 4, recognizing people in the audience. Would anybody like to get up and speak for 3 minutes or less? All right, we'll run down to item number 5, fiber presentation. Kyle, come on down. This is all yours, Councilman Stokes.
Thanks, Kyle.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So, Councilman, what do you want to know?
I just want to know the progress, where
Progress.
we stand, and where we might be finished for the city, and then move on to the LID for the citizens.
And William England, you'll be going down 6.
I get
And
that all the
fifth.
time. Wherever.
We're already going down 5th.
All right, good. My
No,
house isn't too far.
So, where we are right now, we have 38,160 feet of conduit in the ground, which is 7.25 miles from the start of this program till we are now. And that's going from Public Works to the library, police station, hospital, and around. We're all the way out to Optimus Park with the well house there, animal shelter, and now we're we just hooked up to public, or Parks and Recs, and we're getting ready to go down South Fifth to the sewer lagoons out there. So that's 7.25 miles, and we have 3,200 feet of 4-count fiber, which we did drops to like some well houses and stuff. It's just like 4-count fiber, and then we have 6,300 count of 24 count. Like we did that to like the police station and golf course have more than a well house. And we have 20,000 feet of 288, which is like the backbone of what we're using. So altogether we have 29,500 feet of fiber in the ground, which is 5.6 miles of fiber in the ground right now. And we're heading down South Fifth right now. We're 400 feet past Parks and Recs, going down South Fifth, and we'll bore another 400 tomorrow. And we're going down, and I proposed to the mayor, going down South Fifth to Lago Street, over to Silverstone, then it'd be a straight shot to the lagoons.
Nice.
And
Or by your house.
Right?
plenty of people right there, I was thinking about it. And so from where we're at now to hook up to the lagoons is 9,360 feet. So we'll hopefully be getting there depending on what kind of winter we have.
Yep.
Certain days, like if it's super below freezing, I can't take the bore rig out because I use water and it'll freeze my rods up. She did it one time last year and it just locked my rods, and I just gotta break them apart and just kind of shut her down, and it gets too cold for that. And same thing with like potholing. I'm gonna take the ditch witch out, freezes up the machine, so I don't want to break any machinery due to weather. So just depends on what kind of weather we have, but I'm shooting for lighting up the lagoons by mid, just to put it out there, probably like mid-February, just to, depending on what kind of weather we have. And then once we hit the lagoons, we have one well house that we had to jump off of over by the golf course due to super hard ground. We're gonna take another approach at it. So once we get that done, then that should be every city building and well house in Mountain Home, and then next step is houses.
Great.
Start
So,
with-
Paula, Nina, myself, I think, Brock was there, Jeff Christensen, we met and did a proposal for a possible LID. In a perfect world, Councilman, I would love to say that we're ready to rock and roll in 6 to 8 months to start going to homes. Our thought process is that we will, the first LID, which is we were allocated through judicial confirmation from the judge, was 350 homes. And then she didn't allocate us any more LIDs, so the first one, we have to prove to her it works. And then after that, if we can show her that it works, we had say it's 6% take rate, then we go back to her, and she's no longer here, so I don't know how that works, that process works. So hopefully go to the judge here, a new judge, right? And ask, actually, hopefully, legislation, if Representative Blanks was here, that we're working with some people, not-for-profit, and hopefully they will get it in front of representatives and senators, and hopefully some good ones over here, and get it passed through that the citizens have the right, the cities have the right, port authorities have the right to operate municipal fiber. Now, obviously, there'll be, I'm sure, legislation that we're not allowed to be an ISP, but that's okay. But we did have a presentation. We went to Pioneer, and they listened to us for longer than we were allotted. They gave us a short amount of time, and we stole more. So, Kurt, we appreciate that.
It was good information.
Yeah. So we're gonna have another meeting with Entry Point, Mr. Christensen, and ask how that works. But we try to tell everybody that be patient. They've been patient with us for the last 2 years. It's difficult when you start a new program or a new department. There's been setbacks, there's been wins, there's been losses, there's been, you have your highs, your lows. There's days that you like Kyle will tell you, hey, we bored 1,000 feet in one day, and there's days that he goes, we went 300.
Yeah, depends on the ground. Like Friday in an afternoon, we blew 3,100 feet of fiber optics in the ground from Parks to Jackson's. And yeah, once we just get all the conduit in the ground, the fiber goes in pretty quick. It's like once we start blowing the fiber in, big cable through the conduit, it's like 10 feet a second
Wow.
that we can start blowing the conduit through. So the blowing's easy once we start getting everything set up. It's just certain parts of Mountain Home are a lot harder than other parts of Mountain Home. Like going down, can't remember what street that is, like going down towards rodeo grounds. That ground was smooth and we could shoot easy 800 feet a day. And then there's been spots where I'm stuck at 300 feet and it's just chipping away at it. So you can't expect the same every single day because the ground's not the same all over town. So we're out there every day trying to get it done.
I'll tell you, these guys don't mess around. I want you to know that they get there, they don't sit there, warm up the truck.
We show up, we go. Well, there's days where if we're bored, I'm like, let's work through lunch, and if we have time, we'll leave half hour early, whatever. But I'm like, I don't wanna get up, set all my equipment up, it's lunchtime break, I'm like, no, I'm like, let's just work through, I'm like, we're here to get this done, so I'm always pushing, I'm like, I set a goal for myself, and I go really hard at hitting it, or whatever, so.
I will say that you won't find two hard or dedicated people to this project than Danny and Kyle. I think they live, breathe it. They're proud of it. I know Paula, Nina, myself. We worry about things. We want to see it done yesterday, and it's not because of them. It's just because that's how long the process takes. You know, obviously going through judicial confirmation. Always thinking, okay, do we have enough to get this run? You know, it's always. And I want you, all the councilmen, to know that we appreciate everything that you guys done and getting us to where we are today.
Yeah, and especially like every day is with me coming up, every day is a learning curve. There's still stuff I don't know about it, so it's a really exciting career for me to start going into because I like it a lot. Love running heavy equipment, and every day there's something new I can learn. There's people that been doing it for a long time, like the guys that are doing Sawtooth. Rustin's been doing it for 20 plus years, and I look up to those guys a lot because they can show me the stuff they've learned on the way that kind of give me a little drill and hack or whatever they can teach me.
Well, Kyle, thanks for coming. I think I'm just interested in it because
For
I
sure.
think this is a cool project.
Yeah.
And I know it's a monumental task to take upon yourself and your team. So
Yeah.
thanks for all you do.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I will say this, I had it running just down Fifth Street all the way down and then cutting over and then going to the sewer glooms, but Kyle said, well, why don't we go down here just in case?
Just in case.
In the future,
There you
someone
go.
wants to
There's
look up
some-
to
yeah.
it.
Smart thinking.
I know, I was like, this way there's a fence and a sidewalk. I'm like, if we cut this way and this way, I'm like, that just broadens the people can hook up to by a lot. So I was like, it's the same footage, but with way more accessibility to people.
Cool.
So,
Or I guess I won't say in closing, but we will have another, is it this week? So we have a meeting with Jeff to talk about LIDs? I know we have to figure out in the city, how do we break up the citizens as an LID? I know in Ammon, you could take this group of people and this group of people and call it one, LID one. So if that's what we gotta do, but we gotta remember, everybody, it's whoever has the fastest take rate, whoever signs up first, and whoever is their fiber champion of their neighborhood, that's how it will and ultimately be decided who's LID number one. So I just wanna put that out there.
that's what the people that have been coming, cause I get people all the time coming up to me, when are you gonna come to my house? I just kinda told them that from what Philip has told me and stuff, is Mountain Home's gonna get broken up into a grid. And whatever area has the hottest spot, like the most people that are taken into it, that's where we're gonna go first and kind of continue, cause I've got people that are like, oh, I want it, I've got it, I want it, but I don't think anyone else around me, like, well, we can't just shoot to every little individual, it's just who has the most in that single area.
Oh, so we have a meeting tomorrow. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to Paul Safransky at City Hall, 587-2104.
And I don't know if Stokes is, I've got a map of everywhere we have conduit in the ground and everywhere we have fiber in the ground, if anyone was.
I think it's impressive just from your numbers,
Awesome.
all those miles. So that's awesome. Kyle.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
it's chipping away. It adds up quick, but
And it's 2 people. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
yeah, that's what like I see like Sawtooth's crew or like I'm all, you ask my wife when I'm at home I'm constantly researching everything that has anything to do with it, and
That's all
She's
our,
sick of it. I
That's
can
all
tell.
our YouTube history is
yeah,
sometimes.
like I'm always when I'm at
horrid.
home I'm looking up drilling or fiber blowing. That's half of my Facebook is all this stuff. Like even when I'm at home I'm still working on it
That and
and
football.
the football.
Hey, you mentioned that you had a map. Is there
Yeah.
any way you could leave it here and we could take a
Oh
look
yeah,
at
I
it?
can put it wherever you want.
So,
John
you wanna
can
get
make
it?
plenty of them.
Yeah, if you could email it to us, that'd be great. Email it to me and you can
Matthew's
send it
doing
out to
that,
us.
'cause he's got
I'd
the-
love to see that, thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Brennan?
How's the Sawtooth project going in terms of distance and their time frame?
There are.
Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
I think they're about done, actually. I talk to Rustin almost every morning or whatever, cause his equipment's down at our place and we offer to load up anything for him if they need to be, but he said they had like one more long shot to do and then he was gonna set the vault in the fenced area today or tomorrow, whenever he could get to it, but yeah, they are, last week I heard they had less than a third of a mile left. And they've got 2 drills up there, one can do 700 feet in a shot, another one can do like 400 or 600 feet in a shot, and they've got both of them going, so they're covering some massive ground and they'll be done drilling. I don't wanna say a time frame on them, but they're getting very, very close, like to completion.
And they had till December 15th.
First. Well,
Oh,
Well,
no, we said 15, right? No, first.
first,
Yes.
yeah, and they're, once they get done,
They just have to set bolts too.
yeah, they have to set that vault, and there's
All the
he's got
15.
he's got his crew, he has a crew that's setting handholds behind him, so him and another guy are still drilling, and he's got another crew that's setting handholds behind him and potholing from, that's what I was saying, like, Sawtooth's got all these people that are doing potholing for them, and they're drilling and they're storing, I'm like, it's me and Katz, and we've still put up almost 7.5 miles, so.
So no fear of them missing their deadline.
No, that's I've talked to Rustin pretty extensively about the fear of missing it, and he's like, we got it. He's like, we'll have it with time to spare. So
And then they still have to bore the electrical line from the power pole in Legacy to the pump station at Legacy.
What's that for?
That's for the point-to-point system, and then the point-to-point system goes from the booster station and beams over to Legacy to give free Wi-Fi to that entire, well, not the entire park, but what was it, 350 feet?
350, I think, around that certain
Yeah.
Wi-Fi spread. So,
'Cause remember,
but-
we went out for this grant so we could offer any kid that didn't have, well, not just any kid, anybody that didn't have internet, mostly for kids that didn't have internet at home, because everything's on Chromebooks now or all online. So we wanted to make sure that if you're at at Legacy, Richard Gary, Stone Tree, if you were in that area, you could hook up. And part of the requirement was you had to be able to hook up 100 people total. So we
Yep.
figured with those 3 parks, that's ample, especially if you go to Legacy, you could probably fit 100 people there, no problem.
Yeah, well, we're gonna be having Carl Miller too, right?
Yeah, actually, that one, isn't that one lit up or not lit?
Yeah, we've got it lit up. I don't know what the Allied did, but me and Kat spliced in, and we
Shooting
have
it up.
live fiber in the little hut there, and Carl Miller Park, so Carl Miller will have free Wi-Fi too.
So people can just go into the park and there's no like password to act. It's just an open public network. I haven't tried it yet.
Well, not yet, it's not lit up yet.
Oh.
Yeah, it's we're all set up. I don't know if Allied has to go in, and I don't have anything to do with the tech part of it.
So the tech portion, Ally hasn't put in the equipment, and neither has Philip. We haven't blown any fiber. That's what we're gonna have to blow, and that's why they set the conduit. Once we blow the fiber in, then they'll splice it at the fiber hut, and then at the booster station, Allied will put the point-to-point system up, beam it over to Legacy, and then they'll hook up their receiver system to the point-to-point system, and then their router, the Wi-Fi, blast it off in there. Stone Tree, the electrical is going in as we speak. The Miguel, all he has to do is trench a power line over to the gazebo. We have to blow, and since you didn't get my email, because I think Kat's got it, I was wondering, anything in red today that Allied was seeing if we could finish, if we could do two, and that was blowing a string in from the well all the way to that Richard Gary to the gazebo, and then pull Cat 6 cable through there, or at least the string, and then they can do the rest.
Yeah, we can do that in the morning.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then what they'll do is they'll put up, it's PoE, power over Ethernet, and so they'll grab an Ethernet cable, stick it up on the gazebo, there, and they'll put their Wi-Fi on top, or the routers up there, and then they'll blast in Richard Gary Park 350 feet. So hopefully it'll get most of skate parks, so if mom and dad are there hanging out, grandma and grandpa could read their iPad or whatnot while the kids play in skate park, but then also the availability to have cameras in the parks too. Will be nice down the road if the council so chooses. I know we have a camera in the park, but that must not be lit up if Allied hasn't.
It's not.
Oh, well.
The one in Carl Miller?
Yeah.
It's not working yet. I talked to the guy at M2 today because the police department needs some footage. He said he has to come down here and get it because it's not lit up yet on fiber. So he has to come down here to get it off the.
Ah, okay. Well, and then have him, I guess, see if he, what he's gotta do, just put a switch on it?
I don't know.
Okay.
He was waiting for fiber to be installed and I didn't know the fiber was installed at Carl Miller.
Like, what, 6 months, 8 months ago?
The
Yeah.
fiber or just the fiber?
The fiber and
No,
the
the fiber's
switch.
in there. Yeah, we spliced it up and we're,
I
Okay.
can tell him.
It's just not turned on yet?
yeah,
Well,
cause
it's
when we-
on, the fiber is lit up, so, and then the switch is in there, so all they have to do is put a Ethernet cable to it or what, and that's weird. I
Yeah,
thought-
cause it's coming from the hut, we spliced it in.
Mhm.
When we spliced it in, we can put a laser, we can put a
Okay.
laser on it from the hut, and we went to, at Carmel Park, and it was glowing red, which is clear path for the laser to shoot.
But it's not actually turned on for Wi-Fi?
Yeah, Allied, I don't know what they have, like everything on our side, we've got fiber in, it's lit up, Allied takes it from there. I don't know what their holdup is.
I'll make a call tomorrow.
Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, thanks a bunch, Kyle.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem,
you
I can
coming.
leave this map here for you, and Wendy can check it out,
Yeah.
and
Alright, thanks Kyle, I appreciate you, man.
No problem.
Keep killing it. We'll run down to item number 6. Any council comments really quick? Alright, we'll run down to item number 7, consent agenda. Councilman, you have anything that you wanna talk about, answer questions other than, or, not other than, go ahead, Councilman Bundy.
Yeah, on the fire truck, just so that we can all, so everybody knows why we made that little change, you wanna go over the fire truck? I mean, it's a good plan, just kind of address how we're gonna get that fire truck. Me? Well, whoever made the change, so we know that. The way I understand it now.
Council, we were trying to see if we could purchase this fire truck on that, I don't know what it's called.
NPP.
Thank you.
Gov.
Gov. And so, as of the Friday when I did this agenda, Mr. Pitcher was still investigating all of that, so he thought we were gonna end up having to go out to bid, so that's what was put on that.
Okay.
He since has discovered that we can piggyback on the stuff that the NPP Gov, they go out and they bid it, and it's all done legally, and we can
I did-
get our fire truck through there. You wanna?
And do a bit of background check on them and look at what the competitive bid processes they went through. At first I was having a hiccup with the fact that I couldn't find any in Idaho with them.
Mhm.
But then with at least last year, the legislative change to, what's the 2807, it made it lawful for us to be able to piggyback on those, even if it was an out-of-state one, by virtue that it went through a competitive bid process. That was nationwide and advertised anywhere in there, and they meet it. And so I talked to their legal counsel, and I talked to a whole bunch of people.
And so therefore, that's why we wanna change this now, so we can piggyback on that bid, we don't have to go out to bid, and now we have the agreement with the rural there that explains how that whole thing's gonna be purchased. And
Next.
at the next meeting, I'm hoping to have the lease paperwork for the Mountain West Bank, for the balance of the truck.
Perfect, thank you. I think rural fire, you know, we're doing this combined with the chief and rural, and this is gonna be a great deal, so, thanks, appreciate that.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I had another question about item F, and I was wondering if Chief Moore might comment. It's my understanding that these used fire trucks enter the market and are bought up really, really quick. Isn't that right, Chief Moore? Could you comment on that?
Yes, Councilman Stokes, I was afraid you would miss me back here, but no, actually, it is a highly competitive marketplace in the used apparatus. This particular truck on the market new was estimated to be anywhere from 1.1 to 1.4 million dollars. 2012, put it at 9 years old. That's a significant reduction in the cost of the apparatus for the amount of years that we'll be able to take and have that service to our both city and rural fire patrons. But it is highly competitive, and budget cycles and things like that. It just, I mean, it was a big learning curve for us going into this thing, researching this stuff too. So, got caught flat-footed a couple of times, and then when we had an opportunity to see this one come up, we jumped right on this thing and started with due diligence and did research on that and kind of moved forward real fast with this. I apologize for the quickness of it coming to you guys and rural as well, but the opportunity presented itself, and here we are.
I want to send a huge thank you to Larry Slick-Jewett, Doug Main, Alan Roberts. They are the rural fire commissioners, and without them, this doesn't happen. The rural doesn't get taken care of like it should. The city wouldn't get taken care of like it should. So without them, those three guys, thinking about their constituents, their citizens, and the needs, this doesn't happen. So the partnership between the rural and the city is so imperative and so appreciative. So Doug, I want to, you're here tonight, and I want to tell you thank you. And it doesn't go unnoticed, and I really appreciate it. You know, this is something cool. So,
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan.
Sorry. On the same topic, talking to legal counsel, would like to make one little phrase or change in the lease. It's or in the memorandum of understanding. Sorry, I guess it's section 2 or title 2, contribution of share of purchase price. On the back side of that page, it says, at that time the city shall pay the remaining balance of the loan, and it needs to indicate that the city shall pay the remaining balance of the loan in accordance with the terms of the loan. Is that right?
Pursuant to the terms of lease purchase agreement.
Pursuant to the lease purchase agreement, because this kind of makes it read like as soon as the rural pays their next payment of $137,500, that the city will pay it off immediately, and that's not the case.
Yeah, we need to make payments.
Do you understand what I was saying? Okay.
Yeah, how you guys, how the city determines to finance this doesn't affect us at all.
How's that?
And Mayor?
Councilman Brennan?
On item E, I'm glad Kyle's still in the room.
I forgot to get those, he has some dollar amounts for you, sorry.
Yes.
I printed them out for you. That's what I was just talking about, I was like, I forgot the things in the packet.
So
This is what you're requesting?
Yeah. Didn't run away yet. Yeah, so for the targeted area that we're going for, that's why we just blew the 3,100 feet, Friday. Went from Parks to Jackson Street. Our last bit of fiber is at Mountain View Drive, so we don't have the fiber to connect that spot, and we went from Public Works so we could hook it in and do all, like, hook it into Public Works while we're waiting on the fiber to piece in that spot, and then from South 5th going down to the lagoons. That's what this is for, is the fiber to complete the backbone for the grant. And I looked up, I've been on the phone with Mike Perry from Codell every day for the last week or so, asking when can we get it. We compare price. He said the fiber is getting extremely scarce right now because of all these grants. They're like, well, we're doing a sawtooth, everyone's buying it up. So that's why me and the mayor were kind of talking about going down to 144, because the 288 was extensively more expensive. So if we do 144, I pull back 2 conduits, so I can always always pull 144, and if we need another to equal 288, we can always stuff another conduit with the other 144. So, asking for the ones that are highlighted in green.
So, can I continue?
Yeah.
So obviously, I guess not obvious because I don't know this stuff, but 144 is half the
288.
band. I
Oh,
don't know.
not the bandwidth.
Okay.
That's just how
Fiber
many
strands.
fibers.
Fiber strands,
Yeah, that's
sorry.
how many fibers are inside of the cable.
And so if we go with the 144, it looks like it's like a 1.5 ratio for the 288 strand. Would we be wasting money to do a 144 and
Well,
then do
this one
another 144?
Is the quote that I got from him, which he sent me another quote for a. I didn't see. I sent both of them over an email. He found the only 288 that they could find right now is in Denver. They have to ship it over in 2 different reels because they wouldn't cut it. One would be in an 18,000 foot reel, another one would be in a 10,000 foot reel, and both of those together were like $60,000.
69, wasn't it?
Or yeah, like 60. Yeah, it was. They're not on here. That's why we just decided to go with the 144 because to get the 288 we would have to buy all 28,000 of it because they wouldn't cut it.
Yeah.
And it was like $60,000 or $69,000.
Okay.
So I'm like, it's double what the 144 would be.
And so if you use the 144 and you use it all, and you need to throw another 144, is that?
Yeah, so this is 24,000 feet of 144, which is pretty much $31,000, and that would get us all the way out there, connect the backbone, and 144 strands of fiber will last a pretty extensive amount of time or whatever.
You'd only throw another 144 if they're all used up.
Yeah.
And that
So
would be a long time from now.
Yeah. So like if we break down, cause like we'll put it into like the hut that's behind the hospital, it goes into there, then it distributes out from there. So we're kind of thinking about doing the same thing with Parks and Rec, just making it like another
Fiber hut.
so we have a 288 that we're taking into there that we can disperse out from the Parks and Rec hut. So 144 would be sufficient for what we're doing right now because 288 is so scarce. This stuff they have in stock and they can get it to us now. That's why we'd like to get it because it's readily available so we can finish hooking up Public Works to Mountain View, which would hook it to our fiber hut instead of waiting and paying twice as much more for the 288.
What's the second line item on here that you've highlighted?
That's a 96, so like the 144 would be like the backbone that we're putting in, like we don't need to take an entire 144 to person's house or whatever. So like the 96 is pretty much would be around the same price as like another smaller drop cable. And so me and the mayor were talking about like if we were to hook up like the lagoons or someone might as well pay it per dollar wise to hook it up to the 96 to have the pretty much firepower there to have it for down the road. So this 96 count is what we'd be hooking up like to other businesses or to like the lagoons or
So you
stuff like
stop
that.
the 144 short,
Yeah.
and then just get it to the destination.
Yeah, so it'd be like it'd be like the main trunk line would be the 144, then we can take that off the 144 and break it off into the house, so we don't take the whole trunk line. It would just be very expensive to take the whole trunk line into every.
So every fiber they say can do 100 other fibers. So if you took 288 and you dissected it, so you take one of those fibers and then you were to blast it out, it's got so much firepower it could do another 100 individual pieces of fiber and light those up. So the 288 gives us about 28,800 connections if we were gonna break it off per strand into another 100 homes or 100 wherever. Everything will always be dedicated back to a hut. So running 200, and then obviously this was prior predecessors before Kyle said, oh, you needed to have it jacketed, you needed to have it, you needed this one. Looking back, we probably would have just done 144, you know what I mean? all he was doing is using the old leftover 288, which is nothing's wrong with it. It's just double, triple, it's redundancy above redundancy. The cool thing for us is we have 288 strands going into a lot of the trunk lines, and all of them at least go back to the fiber building. He's at Jackson, so what we'll do is we'll take 144, go back to the fiber building, because everything will quintessentially go back to the fiber. They'll all have, like, so if an LED one is Brad's and Ian's area, they'll be, everything will go back to Parks and Rec, you know what I mean?
And that's what we're building the grant with too. I ordered a reel for that 288, and that's what they're building the grant with. So up by Legacy, we'll have 288 also.
Yep.
For growth. So.
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan.
Paula, where does this big chunk of money come from?
So it will come out of the same budget lines we've been using, which was its water and wastewater availability. And then I brought you the treasurer's report.
So 100% of that? It's not like a split?
It will split 50-50 into those two lines, water and wastewater availability.
So yeah.
I'm looking at the far right column.
Yes.
See, at least I highlighted my stuff.
And this should complete your
Yeah, this'll
all
go,
the wells other
yeah.
than the one on 18th Street.
Which I think we calculated out even.
Yeah,
the
well, no, but
stretch.
that's adding this one in. So
Yeah,
then all
yeah.
we need to do is put the fiber modules in the building, light it up, get with
Yeah.
Allied, and they can start hooking them all up.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
they'll go
this'll-
out into the LEDs, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so this'll complete what I have to do to get to every city building. This'll complete going to lagoons, and this'll complete everything I have to bore to and blow fiber through.
Then after that, everything should be LED funded.
Yep.
Just the cost, we should have sold the 288 and just bought the 144.
Short.
Oh,
We tried to
Whoa.
refund it. They
Whoa,
were gonna
see.
take a $14,000 hit.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, and then I talked to the Cordell guys about, because when we spliced the spider fibers, what Keith wanted, it's not really any different than the fiber that's cheaper. It just rolls better, and I guess Cordell is trying to talk him out of spider fiber. I don't know if Keith is wanting the spider fiber, so the stuff that I'm getting now is extensively cheaper than the first 288 that we bought. And we have 1,000 feet left of that after we blew Friday, so, it's a lot more budget friendly, hopefully, than what was originally bought.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
All right, council.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Bundy. Sorry.
You okay having had this?
No, I had to look at my sheet. Brain farted.
It's all right. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we pass the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
Councilman Stokes.
Can we add in Councilman Brennan's suggestion on that lease?
I thought we already did. didn't we?
Oh, we did that?
With the corrections on the lease, you bet.
Okay.
The motion is second. I'll call for the question. Councilman Stokes.
Aye.
Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Go ahead.
Who seconded that motion?
Me.
Old business,
Sorry.
item number 8, there was none. Items removed consent, there was none. Discussions on planning and zoning commission recommendations, action on recommend. Number 1, applications by Larry Hyatt to rezone 6 lots in Hyatt subdivision containing approximately .757 acres located at northeast corner of South 3rd West B Street and West 8th South Street, C4 to R4 to be approved. Brock,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
you're up.
Happy
Brock,
to be
you're
here.
getting fancy, huh?
That's the only way I know.
Yep. Hey, thanks, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully he's taking you out to dinner.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Mayor will pay for
Well,
it.
excuse
Yeah.
Oh, well, then, it's done.
Here's my credit card, now to give him one.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks,
See
guys.
ya.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
So really quick, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Are you projecting this, Brock, anywhere?
Can you see that, Mike? Okay. This, really quick, everyone, this is a part of the new,
Cool.
new system that we allows the people that come in and do presentations, we can do it this way. We have 2 new cameras up here. We have a microphone, so hopefully everyone can see and hear a lot better. And it was paid for by the CARES Act grant, not city funds.
No.
So, I'm sorry.
It's
Go
going to
ahead.
be great. No, thank you, Mayor. I'm also excited to use these means to present this application to you. So this is a request to rezone 6 lots in the Hyatt subdivision, which is approximately 0.757 acres at the northeast corner of South 3rd West B Street and West 8th South Street to R4. Per the applicant, the intent is to develop this piece of property in to single-family home lots. A little bit of history. You have probably already seen this once when it was undergoing the plotting process, where both the Planning and Zoning Commission and also the City Council ended up approving that. However, it was somehow overlooked that the zoning district was still C4, which is heavy commercial. It's our most intense commercial type use. There are housing options there, but high density housing options. You're not allowed to do single family homes. So we're here to clean up the situation for Mr. Hyatt so that he is able to pursue doing single family homes. I want to point out to the future land use map, which is right here. I believe it is in all of your packets. So, oh, well, it is not in your packets. But the future land use map, this is the map that is with our comprehensive plan. So this pink area right here is what the comprehensive plan wants to be used for commercial uses, and then the yellow is residential. But the thing with the comprehensive plan, unlike the zoning map, its lines aren't hard and fast. They are approximate and they are supposed to be flexible. The subject property is right next to residential uses, and it's also surrounded by single-family home residential uses. We have a manufactured home park right here. Right across the street we have single-family homes. And the comprehensive plan and also the zoning ordinance when it comes to annexations speaks to, is the proposed zoning district harmonious with everything that's around it? Will it take away from the character and from the environment which is in the overall vicinity? Which staff believes that a R4 designation would not take away from that, and it's actually surrounded by other R4 zone properties. Thus, staff would recommend to you that you accept this rezone, and as well the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-0 on November 2nd, 2020 in favor of also this rezone from C4 to R4 residential. And seeing that the applicant isn't here today, he was present during the hearing, I open myself up to any questions this body may have.
Councilman.
Mayor?
Councilman McCain.
Seems I didn't hear anything, I'd like to make a recommendation for the applicant, Larry Hyatt, to rezone 6 lots in the Hyatt subdivision from C4 to R4.
Second. Motion and second. I'll call for the question. Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Councilman Stokes.
Aye.
Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
All right, run down to number 2 on the discussion of City Planning Zone Commission's recommendations.
Alright, this one is for both a annex and a zone. This is property which is approximately 13 acres. It is at the northwest corner of East 12th South and South 14th East, and it's being proposed that it be annexed with the zoning designation of limited office / residential. So I'm going to show this to this body real quick just because it's not in all of your packets. So this pink signifies commercial use. This is what the comprehensive plan wants to do. Yellow is residential. Now, along here, where the public works building is and everything else, that's zone C4 commercial. That's, again, a pretty heavy use. Generally, you don't want to have that type of use in close proximity to single-family homes, just because the impacts are very different. A lot of C4 businesses are open outside of 9 to 5 p.m. They're generally high traffic. They just aren't the best match for each other. All of this land right out here is currently vacant, but it's anticipated that it will be filled with residential uses. Thus, what staff is recommending is we want to have the flexibility that commercial uses offer us. And also we want whatever zoning district that it is assigned meets the overall goal of what the city wants to do, which is to build a dog park and also more green space, soccer fields, etc. Thus, what staff is recommending is a way to kind of gently fade into the residential districts, which would be limited office / residential. Limited office provides limited commercial, which is generally 9 to 5. These are your hairdressers. These are your 9 to 5 offices. These are lawyers. If you would ever want one of those as a neighbor. But it's an excellent way to slowly fade from a very high intensity type commercial use to residential without negatively affecting these residential neighborhoods right there. And again, for the comprehensive plan and per the zoning ordinance, we're looking on what is harmonious, what is not going to take away the character from the overall area. I will go ahead and open myself up for any questions you may have. But being that this is a city application, we do have Rich here, who is representing the city as the applicant, and I'll let him come up and say a few words if he feels any are merited.
I think you hit everything. So unless you have some questions about. You got any questions?
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan.
Just confirming, the area for the expanded dog park is within the boundaries of this request?
Yes. So to speak to it a little bit more, and it's this piece right to the south. So this is 13 acres. This is going to be a phased build out over time. We've been working very closely with the Parks and Recreation Department with Tiffany. She has amazing ideas for what we want to do. It's to know our south side of town. So the city of Mountain Home, we should be the park capital city of the entire state of Idaho.
I think we are already.
We are. We do have a lot.
Well,
I'll work on it. I'll work on
have
it.
more than about
And I'll get it. However, the south part of town, that amenity isn't seen as frequently. A lot of our flagship parks, Carl Miller, Legacy, all those are on the north side of town. Yep, that one as well. So we believe by providing this park south of town, it's going to create better incentives for future development by providing green space to our citizens. And we promise we won't try to build any more mega parks, just because there is an expense, water, but we have been working with the Parks and Recreation Department to secure very environmental friendly native plantings, all of that. But I will note what you're deciding is not whether or not this is going to be a park, but rather the zoning designation, whether it's appropriate, and it happens to allow us to do a park if we need to do that.
And it is in the flood zone, which is good for open space.
It is. I want to mention, and I should have mentioned it as a piece of history, so LEAP Housing Solutions, they were actually looking at this property to develop for potential housing, but then they found out it was in the floodplain, and I think partially in the floodway, and Mike McCain can be the first one to tell you that that is not conducive towards development. It's very expensive, so having this being used in the future as potential green space, flood retention areas.
I don't know, shipping container house.
Shipping
Have it on planks. You
We
know,
could
city-
get it up there.
It's like, yeah, it's like just like Tahiti.
Mayor,
Definitely help.
Councilman.
if there's no other thing on this, I'd like to make a recommendation to approve the city's request to annex and zone to LOR and R for a single parcel of property, approximately 13 acres, on the west side, south 14th east, and north, west 12 south, to be approved.
Second. A motion and a second, I'll call for the question. Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Councilman Stokes.
Aye.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
On down to number 1, site, subject to site plan amendments to require building, public works, fire, zoning officials to comply with applicable city codes and standards.
Can I go with number 2?
That was okay, I'm sorry, my apologies, sorry, yep, looked at the wrong one. Recommend that the city request City Mountain Home annexation for zoning to C3 for single parcel approximately 1.5 acres be approved with the following conditions: site plan amendments as required by building, public works, fire, and zoning officials to comply with applicable city codes and standards. Number 2, all future developments will comply within the bulk and coverage controls of C3 zoning districts.
Awesome. Whew. Thank you, Mayor. As you already mentioned, this is a request for an annex and zone of approximately 1.5 acres, low, and it's right by north of Pioneer Federal on American Legion and East 8th North. If you're not familiar with the property, I'll kind of give it to you. It's an odd-shaped one. This one is more of a housekeeping item. So this piece of property is currently not within city boundaries, which means that as far as city maintenance, anything we want to do, we would have to work with the county, which we don't mind doing. But when you own the property and it's within city boundaries, we like having more control over it. We don't want to apply for unnecessary permits of property that we own, so that we can expedite to ensure that this property remains a effective property for all of our residents. The property zoning designation that is being asked for is C3. If I was a little bit more prepared, I would have showed the map that shows that everything around it is C3. This pink designates that it needs to be commercial, but it is C3, everything around it. I believe that's a very appropriate zoning designation. As far as for future development of this property, we are actually very limited. I believe that this property, and I'll let the mayor speak to this if I did anything wrong, was actually gifted to us from ITD, or we purchased it from ITD based upon it being used for stormwater retention uses, which makes any sort of building there very difficult. It's also a piece of property that we have the liberty of sharing with Pioneer Federal Credit Union for part of their parking, which we're happy to do, which we have a great relationship with them, and nor does the city plan on intending to do anything that would alter that parking that is there as well. With that, I will, Rich, do you have anything to speak to as the applicant?
Not just some questions. You guys got questions?
Mayor.
Councilman Brennan?
Brock, can you clarify, the part of their parking lot is city-owned ground?
Yes.
Yes.
And they're not leasing it, we're just being a good partner?
They just cannot do anything with it except parking of anybody.
It's kind of an open parking. It's an
It's
open
just an
parking.
open parking.
It's parking lot. The requirement from ITD if member.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
actually
we're here today.
public parking that we said we would develop, and anybody can park there and then use the walking path or anything else.
Right.
Mayor?
Councilman Bundy?
Based on that, I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve the request of the city of Mountain Home for annexation and zoning to C3 for a single parcel property approximately 1.5 acres be approved.
Second. The motion and second, I'll call for the question. Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
On down to number 4, recommendations of the request to Yesco Signs for a conditional use permit to erect a 45-foot off-premise 10 by 30 double-faced billboard sign be located at 725 West 6th South Street, B9.
Alright, Mayor, City Council, being that the applicant is based out of Utah, they were unable to make it, but I'm gonna call them and they're gonna be on speaker, so that they can be present as well.
Councilman Brennan? Hang on a second, Brock.
You're fine with that, but while you're doing that, are you able to put the conceptual drawing on the camera?
I
For the
am.
citizens to see that? It's a big item, so.
It is. And I also have the site plan that I'll be able to show the citizens as well. I didn't think Matt, this is Brock. I'm gonna put you on speaker, and while, yep, Adam, really quick.
Paradise Road.
Yeah, but it's right in front of McDonald's.
It's right off to the side in
Yeah.
between McDonald's
Alright, you're
and
both here?
Standard.
Okay.
Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my initial presentation, and I will have you on mute, and then when it's time for the applicant, I will get you off, and you will be able to speak.
Ours good to go.
Yep, one moment. Alrighty. So this is a request for a conditional use permit to allow an off-premises sign billboard on property at 725 West 6 South. Per the applicant, the sign will be 45 feet tall, and the display areas will be 10 by 30, 300 square feet each. The sign will be steel construction. If this body isn't familiar with the construction plans, it's fairly typical. They're using a steel pole sign design. Double face. So this item, the sign code, when it comes to off-premises and or billboard signs, it says that a conditional use permit can be asked for by the city council in order to proceed with one. However, it doesn't necessarily provide very clear standards of what this type of sign would actually need to have. For example, for the overall height, it just says NA. I can tell you that for this zoning district, that 45 feet is the max for buildings, and then for a typical pole sign, the max is 25 feet. So being that we don't have precise design guidelines as to what this needs to look at, I believe it's very important to look at the conditional use permit criteria, just in general. Which the criteria I want to look at is, one, will it be harmonious with the goals and objectives of the Mountain Home Comprehensive Plan and with all applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance? Will it be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be harmonious with the existing or the intended character of the general vicinity, and that such use and or expansion will not change the essential character of the same area, and it will not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of a natural or scenic feature of major importance. The comprehensive plan designates Airbase Road as a main entryway, and it is a gateway, and that because it's a gateway, it should provide visual cues to the character and identity of our community. A lot of what I am speaking to can be found to be subjective, which is why we have a planning and zoning commission, and which is why we have a city council, because you have been elected to hopefully try to define what does our identity really mean, what does our character really mean. Staff can say, from based upon the built environment of what is surrounding there, that the proposed billboard seems like it may be out of place as far as its design and as far as its height. Staff recommends the following to you, which first would be to deny it based on our conditional use criteria, and also what is within our which is in our comprehensive plan, being that it does not meet the character for the area, and I believe it's not the aesthetic that we want to show off to those entering our wonderful community. However, if you were to choose to approve this, what our current zoning ordinance lacks are design standards for this type of use. I believe what you approve today may set a informal precedence of what you are willing to approve. And if we want to pursue off-premises signage, billboard signage, which off-premises signage in general is something that we need to update. I'm pretty sure that Mr. Fitzer could definitely speak to that all day long. But it's important that this body understands that your decision today will lead us in whatever direction you want to go to as far as billboard configuration. What do they look like? Is it just a single pole? Are there other sort of components that should be involved with that? Staff would recommend that if you believe this is something that we should pursue, that it would be prudent to perhaps table the item and to look at different design components that we could ask for with what the applicant is asking for. Staff will note that the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-0 on November 2nd, 2020 in favor to recommend to City Council to deny this.
So currently, as I look, Brock, I don't see any on American Legion until maybe you get out into the county, any billboard signs. I don't see any on Airbase Road until you get out into the county. And then, to me, I'm all about aesthetics. If you're coming into our city, we've poured a lot of money into entranceway signs, our gateway signs. I think if we don't set the standard of where we want to be in the future and it being better aesthetically pleasing, so to me, I don't know why we'd put a giant sign that doesn't belong to anybody. Like, it doesn't belong to, like I say, I don't even know what's there. Is that Standard Supply?
Timothy Standard and
McDonald's. I mean, obviously we allow the owners of the property to do, put their own signs, but to have somebody else put another sign, I don't know.
So,
and like you said, if we approve this, we're setting the standards for here moving forward.
Billboards all over town.
Yeah, we'll have billboards all over Mountain Home. Is that what we want our town to be?
Does anybody have any other questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman?
I just noted that how big this sign is. It's 45 feet tall and 10 foot by 30 foot. It is a big sign.
There's a billboard.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would like to give the applicant the opportunity to speak prior to further discussion, if the body would see that as prudent.
Councilman, you all right with him speaking? Go ahead.
All right, so I'm just gonna put him on speaker.
Talking about how big it is.
Matt. Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
All right, we are ready for you.
Alright, I apologize. I wasn't able to hear that, hear this conversation there. So if I reiterate some of the things you guys have already said, I apologize. I also want to apologize for not being able to be there in person. We were notified Friday afternoon, and I had some prior engagements today and tomorrow that I wasn't able to make the drive up there. But I really do appreciate you guys allowing me to be part of the meeting via speakerphone. I understand it's not the most convenient way to listen and to communicate, but I appreciate you guys doing that anyway. So I'm sure you mentioned, and I saw you guys discussing that there. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear. We are applying for the conditional use permit as per the city code allows us to apply for that conditional use permit. The property we're looking at is C4, zone C4 commercial, which is heavy commercial. As has been prior mentioned today, it's one of the most intense commercial uses. There are lots of traffic, and it's more open to more intense uses. As part of the conditional use application, we had to post notice of the planning commission meeting. I believe letters were also sent out to businesses and residents in the vicinity and the community, and there were 0 responses that were received back from the community during that time, which I believe was a 16-day period. There were 0 responses received, and which leads us to believe that there is not a huge either approval or disapproval from the community, then it's not a huge issue with them. Our landowner, the one we've been working with, the Breeze Real Estate and Investment, also the Standard Plumbing location,
Hey, Matt.
they actually were the ones that reached out to us. Yes.
Just one moment. The mayor has a quick question.
So how many letters went out to the community?
I'm not sure so that was, because everyone was within 300 feet of the billboard.
Say that again, Councilman.
300 feet of
It would've been sent
the
out.
target property.
The back would've sent it out, and it should be on their report as to how many letters were actually sent out.
14 property owners and 15 public entities.
But nothing to any city
Oh, this big,
residents?
they didn't go any bigger than required.
No.
Right.
Should've
To
been much
me,
larger.
you'd want your constituents to at least have a.
They went out with the minimum amount and something this large should've
Which is
went out
the
much
300
bigger.
radius. But that's what is currently
Right.
mandated by city code.
Right, but they have the option of going larger.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So, to my point on that, it is actually the planning commission that sends out those letters. Hello?
Hello? Yep.
Okay. It is the planning commission that sends out those letters in the radius. We did not send those out. There's a fee we pay that is included in that for them to do that service. But it was posted on the property as well, and there were no responses back. But we do know that Reach Real Estate and Investment and Standard Plumbing location, they were the ones that contacted us and asked us to look at putting a billboard on their property to help increase their property values and to increase revenue on their property. We know that scenic appeal has been a big talking point on the planning commission meeting. That was discussed quite a bit. I know that the recommendations from the city, from the planning council, were to deny. And I know that part of that was because the request was not harmonious with the existing uses. We disagree with that. We believe it is harmonious with the existing uses and the heights and everything around. Previously, I did mention that we had flown a drone up in the area. We did not fly it directly over the other sign. They appear to be, I said 35 feet, but upon looking back at and looking at our photos and everything, it's closer to 45 feet themselves. There's the AutoZone sign and the McDonald's sign that are that height. They're also on single poles, just like ours would be. And we'd like to make that notice as well. And we also, the comprehensive plan, as has been mentioned tonight, is not a hard and fast law, but it was more of a guideline for us to look at and try to understand and interpret it differently. And we'd like to, request a stay on the decision of the city council tonight. And we'd like to be able to enter in the conversation with you guys to be able to find, a size of the sign that would be more, acceptable to you, and see if we can come up with some kind of agreement of what that would look like, what design features you'd like to see on the sign. We've done multiple things in different cities where we've been able to advertise for the city on the billboard itself. In Ogden, Utah, for example, we have a giant "Welcome to Ogden" sign on the top of the billboard that looks really nice and welcomes people into Ogden. Helps with that sense of community. Helps with those gateway entry points, as were noted. And I guess one of the questions we have as well is this was seemed to be in one of the gateway zones, the gateway to the city, the gateway corridors. And we wanted to know exactly how far those gateway corridors extend, as it seems to me that this is more towards the center of the city in this area, and also the scenic corridors. I know that they want to establish a scenic corridor overlay, and my question is, will this be including the scenic corridor overlay, this area in particular, as that's not been specified by the comprehensive plan or in any of the zoning. And I wanted to iterate again that for the code, we are allowed to do the conditional use permit, and there are no size limitations on that. So we went to 45 feet based on the signs around us, and we wanted the sign to be visible. We wanted to not obscure the signs that are around us too much, minimize that impact as much as possible. So that's why I went to that height. But we are willing to, discuss that and see if there's a better height that would be more fitting for this area. Again, the commercial area we're in with the state code and the different counties and cities that we work with, that is the area that billboards are designated for. And for the state code, the commercial areas, especially these heavy commercial, also industrial areas, are where they're permitted and looked to do. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is you have to stay on your guys' decision. We'd like to meet with the city council. There's also other things that we can do, negotiate with is, I know you guys are looking to have these welcome to Mountain Home signs along those corridors. We'd be open to looking at doing possibly some monument signs or things like that nature at those gateway entry points, sign making branch to be able to help that sense of community and help that come alive. We really truly believe that billboards are a great asset to the community, to the local businesses. 75% of our businesses are local small businesses. We expect that to be the same case in Mountain Home. We've had businesses in Mountain Home reach out to our salespeople and want more inventory inside the city. And so that's why, we're looking at doing this. That's, kind of what I have for you. I hope that we can be able to, come forward and have some sort of discussion. At the very least, to be able to see if we can come to some sort of sign ordinance or something that would be agreeable to you, to the city council.
And Matt and Brock, if I may, I'd like to add to that just a little bit. My name's Braden Saunders. I'm the director of real estate for Yes Brockwood Media. I asked Matt to conference me in on this. I've been watching your guys' meeting, and I know it was stated earlier in talking about the COVID pandemic that more data would be appreciated by the city to help you make an informed decision. We'd like the opportunity to show you data that we have that shows that billboards are in fact actually helpful to the small businesses that we do business with in places like Mountain Home. As Matt had mentioned as well, I do a lot of work personally with cities in helping kind of write ordinances and whatnot that isn't specifically specified, as is the case in Mountain Home. I think, being a billboard guy, I think billboards are very useful. I understand there's the opposite side that views them as not as useful and more of a obstacle. But we've been able to kind of find mutual agreeable terms that helps allow our business to grow, the business of the landowners that we operate with, as well as helping cities have a satisfactory ending to these types of permits as well. With that said, that's all I had to add. If there are any questions from the council, we greatly appreciate the opportunity to answer those right now. And again, respectfully request a stay of this decision so we can try to get together a little bit more about it.
Any questions for them?
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan?
I'd just like to note that I'm not completely against billboards. And being inside the city limits, I think we do have a couple, but they've been around for a really long time. And the height of this one specifically bothers me. It's way up there. It's a huge sign, and this is a personal business, and that's fine. But some they make the point that this can benefit local business and all that stuff. But I've seen that with billboards, first come first serve, and one giant corporation can buy unlimited rights to the billboard and say, I'm going in contract with you for the next 5 years.
Right.
And so we don't know who the clientele of these billboards would be, but it takes one giant corporation to steal all the advertising, not steal it, but to take all the advertising for years on end. In Mountain Home, we have several billboards that are contracted out for an unlimited amount of time until they choose not to renew it. So that makes it so it's not so competitive for the local business owner.
Mr. Mayor? Councilman Stokes?
I make the motion that we deny the ESCO signs for a conditional use permit to erect a 45-foot off-premise 10-foot by 30-foot double-faced billboard sign to be located at 725 West 6 South Street.
Second.
The motion and second, I'll call for the question. Councilman Bundy?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
I'm not opposed to coming back to the table for further discussion with actually talking about how we can agree upon something. But with what we have right now,
Councilman McCain?
I agree with Councilman Brennan.
Again, I agree with Councilman Brennan, and I vote aye.
Alright, thank you guys.
Thanks.
Have a good night. Discussion decision on acceptance of right-of-way property in Colonial Estate subdivision. Rich, this is yours.
Thank you. Mayor, council.
A party for developers approached us to offer this fine piece of these two skinny lots that are in Colonial subdivision. I kind of took some pictures and showed you kind of what they are. There's just kind of, I don't know how this got in here in the first place. I mean, when we first doing this,
They're a weed patch.
yeah. So, but I brought it to you guys. You know that they are offering to just quick claim it and give it to us. So, but I just thought I'd bring it to you guys, see what your thoughts were.
Mayor?
So.
Councilman Brennan?
There's a reason why it's being offered up for free. I think it, like Councilman King alluded to, it's not big enough for a sidewalk. And the other side of it is county, and the other end of it is county. And so I don't want to take on the burden of having to maintain it constantly. So there could be more discussion, but I just make a motion to deny the city taking possession of this land.
Second.
I'd like to make one comment.
Go ahead.
I can tell you exactly why that was put in there, cause I was back there at the time. And that's because the people that were in the county right there would not talk to him and work with him at all. And if he took everything right to the property line, they could annex right in and use his street without doing a thing. So he kept that buffer in there, and he kept control of that 5 feet, so they could not do it. That's why those 2 lots there are for 5 foot each. That's why we deal with that weed patch every year.
Alright.
That's all I had to say.
Okay, it's been motion second, I'll call for the question. Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Right.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman Buddy?
Aye.
Alright.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Thank you. Final comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Stokes?
all I want to say is Congratulations to Christy Zito, Megan Blanksma, and our own Matt Bundy on their recent elections. That's it.
Anything else?
I don't agree with that.
Alright, meeting adjourned.